Hi, my name is Benjamin. I'm interviewing my grandpa for the Successful Person Project, and because I believe he is someone who is successful in life. So, question one, can you give us a small snapshot of your life from like when you were a teenager to about now?
Let's see. When I was a teenager, I was in high school at Everett, Washington. And I went from there to West Point. And from West Point, I went to the Army. And from the Army, I went to civilian life. I tried to be an engineer, but they weren't paying engineers enough money for me to support my family, so I became a salesman. And after I was a salesman for a few years, my dad helped me finance a graduate course at the University of California where I earned a PhD. I then was a professor at the University of Washington for about a dozen years, and then I left to join the business community. And in the business community, I was a partner in an advertising agency, and we lost a big client, so I left the agency and went to being a salesman again. And after I had been selling for 2 or 3 years, I just retired.
So, you were in the Olympics. What was that like?
That's true. After I graduated from college, I had the opportunity to join the modern pentathlon team, and I was selected to be a member of that team and went to the Olympics in 1952 in Helsinki. And I was 6th out of about 50-some competitors.
What is a pentathlon for any viewers who don't know?
What is the pentathlon?
Yeah.
The modern pentathlon? 5 events. They do it differently now, but when I did it, we did 1 event a day for 5 days. And it was riding, running, fencing, swimming, and shooting.
Okay. And by riding, you mean riding like horses?
I missed that, sorry. I'm a little deaf.
Yeah.
I'll tune this up and see if that helps.
By riding, do you mean riding horses?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what was your family like from being a teenager to now?
My family life. I was an only child. I had a very loving mother and father who really devoted that portion of their lives to me as I was growing up. We belonged to the Episcopal Church in Everett. And what do you want me to tell about my marriage?
Sure, if you're comfortable.
Okay, well then when I graduated I married, and my wife and I had 3 daughters. Kind of in midlife, I can't remember, I was in my 40s sometime. My wife decided that she didn't want that family any longer, and she left to be in another family. And I, after 4 years or so, found Jeannie, and I remarried, and in doing that I acquired 2 stepsons. One of those we lost to a brain tumor when he was about 40. And let's see, and then I have grandchildren, including you.
And which one of his daughters is your mom?
You.
Well, I know, but ask him.
Okay. Which one of his
my,
daughters is my mom?
my middle daughter. Blondie Blue Eyes is your mother.
So, what kind of education did you have growing up?
The military academy education at West Point was entirely devoted to engineering. When I graduated, I was about a year away from a master's degree in civil or mechanical or electrical engineering.
Wow.
Wow. So, you know, in life, from when you were a teenager to about now, what's kind of your passion? Like,
What's my passion?
yeah.
Gee, I don't know that I have any passions. I've always liked to ski. I learned to ski when I was 17, and I learned up at Stevens Pass. And then I always skied whenever I had an opportunity, but I was never very good as a skier. When my life settled down as I got a little older, I could ski more frequently, and so I was an adequate skier, but I loved it. That was a true passion.
Okay.
I don't think of myself as having any other passions.
So, what kind of work did you have to do to get into the Olympics and to West Point?
To get into West Point, I had to have good grades. I had to have an appointment from a politician, and I had to pass a physical exam. I was top man in my class in high school because I had always had a goal growing up to go to West Point. And so I had worked very hard to make good grades and to be able to qualify for West Point. And I had always loved athletics, so I was in good shape, and a physical exam was not a difficult thing, except that I could not see very well and I could not hear very well. My eyesight was correctable to pass the test, and I've always felt that the audiologist who decided to let me pass the exam kind of fudged a little. I've always been a little bit deaf.
Okay. What was like your focus in life?
What was my focus in life? My family. When I was about your age, maybe a little younger, I was at a family gathering at my grandfather's house. And there were uncles and aunts and cousins there. And my grandfather was there, and he was totally deaf. And so he was kind of the butt of the jokes. Everybody made jokes about him because he couldn't hear. And I fell in love with that. I fell in love with the closeness, the love, the camaraderie, and I decided right then and there that that's what I wanted in life, and I worked very hard to try to structure that.
Okay.
How did he get a political appointment
So,
to go to West Point?
one quick question is, how did you get a political appointment to get to West Point?
Well, that was difficult. My dad was a rabid Republican, and we lived in a Democrat environment. All of the local politicians and the congressmen were Democrats. My dad put together a portfolio of letters of recommendations and achievements that I had accomplished in high school. It was, I don't know, about that thick. And he took it to the local congressman, whose name was Henry Jackson. Henry Jackson spent about 5 minutes with me. I remember interviewing him and thinking, he doesn't really give a rap about what's going on with me. He's busy doing other things. And then we had a senator who was going out of office and had a senatorial appointment to West Point available to him. And so Henry Jackson requested that he give me that appointment, and he did. His name was Hugh Mitchell.
Wow.
Wow. So, what was kind of your push? Like, what pushed you to go to the Olympics or go to West Point or something like that?
Let me state the question. You want to know what pushed me
Yeah.
to go to West Point?
Yeah, what was your, like, personal push to do that?
That's hard to identify. I guess I would say that when I was like 6, maybe 7 or 8, my mom and dad liked movies that had excuse me, I'm trying to think of a name. Nelson Eddy and Jeanette MacDonald. They were singers. And they were in a movie called, I think it was called Wings Over West Point. And the scene was West Point, and there were they were in summer uniforms, so they were in white. And when we got home, I asked my dad who all those guys were marching around in the white uniforms, and he said, that's a real place, and you can go there if you want. I said, well, I think I'd like to do that. So the push really came from my dad, because every, 3 to 6 months, he would ask me if I still wanted to do that. And I said, yes, I did. And so he pointed out to me that I would have to do very well in school if I wanted to do that. So that was always an incentive for me. I think having that goal was very important in me focusing on my education.
Okay. So, like, over time, how did you kind of improve yourself? How did you, like, get better and better?
It was
That's a tough question. Well, I recognized early that a good vocabulary was very important in life. So I started early on Reader's Digest magazine had a vocabulary test. And so I took that vocabulary test well into my 40s. Every I guess the Reader's Digest was monthly. Every time that would come out, I would do that. And then I would look up words and try to focus on what they meant and how to use them precisely. My parents encouraged me in that sort of endeavor always.
Okay. So, like, over time, like, how did you kind of persist to get to West Point and stuff like that?
I don't think I can answer that question. How did I persist? Just by sticking to it, by having a long-term goal, by not quitting.
So to end off this interview, is there anything you would want the viewers to know?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any of that.
Okay, to end off this interview, is there anything you would want, like, the viewers to know? Like,
That I would want who to know?
The viewers.
The viewers. Oh.
So the kids in my class.
As you're going through life, you will have goals and objectives and things that you want to do and jobs that you'd like to have. And sometimes God closes those doors. No matter how much you want them, no matter how well you're prepared, no matter how hard you try, you can't, it's just not possible. So you have to be flexible, and you have to ask God, well, what's next? If I can't go this way, what other way can I go? And you have to think about what your skills are, what God has given you as blessings, as talents. And you have to think about how you can use those talents And there's nothing you can do about it. You have those talents or you don't. But what you can do something about it is how hard you try and what your attitude is. And if your attitude is, I can do this, it will come out all right, God is with me, then you'll be okay.
Okay. So, that's the end of our interview. Thank you for answering every question.
You're welcome.
Okay.